Check me out. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mile High Mentors podcast. This is Connor Doobie. I am your host each and every episode, and I sincerely appreciate you tuning in. It means the world to us that you're here listening and checking out what we're doing. You can be sure to check out other episodes over on Soundcloud and get some behind-the-scenes fun content over on Instagram. You can also come check me out, give me a follow. Would love to hear from you. And please give us some feedback, guys. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on the show, whether you liked it, whether you disliked it. Tell us so we know how we can continue to improve moving forward. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Denver Open Media. This is a really great organization down here in Denver that we've been using their space, their tools, and technology and education resources to produce the show that we are here, Mile High Mentors. And anyone can do it too. You can go down to Denver Open Media. You can become a member. They help distribute content for you and, again, provide you all the resources you really need to produce really, really good content here in the Denver area. So that is Denver Media, denveropenmedia.org. That is where you can go check them out. We are also brought to you by Active Blogs, which is a 17-year content marketing agency. They focus on B2B blogs, white papers, case studies, newsletters for companies that sell really high-dollar, high-value accounts, mainly focused all on B2B technology companies. And they also do personal branding and LinkedIn social selling services for folks and leaders and thought leaders in those same industries. So be sure to go check them out. They are at activeblogs.com. Today's podcast is with a very interesting character, Mr. Jay Dawson, who I actually got engaged with on LinkedIn, and we were initially talking business and stuff like that. And just a really cool guy, very interesting to listen to. And I brought him on the show because he actually spent 5 years earning his degree at Colorado State University for health and wellness and nutrition, and ended up in sales and actually is crushing it in sales for CenturyLink. He's one of their top sales reps nationally. And so it was really interesting hearing his transition and from going from wellness to now he's doing really well as a salesperson, and just a genuine guy to talk to, and hearing about his mentors, how he does what he does, and kind of what he's hoping to provide for other folks moving forward into the future. And so without further ado, guys, please welcome Jay to the podcast. I get excited, and I start yelling, and I get quiet, and then I get loud.
As long as you're not sweating down, you need to get a towel, you'll be all right.
We're gonna be crying.
Yeah, exactly. Reminiscing on the old days.
Yeah, dude, what's the deal with this cryptocurrency thing? My client was down here from California the other day, and he was even talking about it again.
You had to ask it.
Did I just unleash the beast?
I'm big into this.
I need to know.
Well, I've heard about it. A lot of people have heard about it over the years, right? Like, I think it started off in 2009, 2010 with Bitcoin. And I've seen a lot of Facebook posts by various friends over the years. And, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, you just can't imagine it's real. It's probably nothing too big. I don't think it's something that's going to lead anywhere, right? There's nothing backing it up.
Yeah, like what? How do you like? Well, that's what I don't understand is what's the point of buying it? There's nothing to back it. There's not gold. There's not U.S. The economy is not behind
gold and
cryptocurrency
banks and stuff like that. Well, that's changing. So that's kind of the big thing is banks definitely are getting behind it now. You're starting to see a lot of professional organizations and governments specifically legalize it and back it. It's a very limited resource, like gold, for example, and that's why you saw Bitcoin go from, I think it was like $700 in January this year. Now it's at $4,000. I mean, that's insane.
What does that mean? $700
per Bitcoin.
Really?
Yeah. So that's eightfold increase. So far in 8 months into the year. I mean, it just keeps going higher. So if you're someone who wants to make really quick money on investment, that's clearly the way to go.
Ooh, I
don't think
man.
there's any stock I've ever seen that's performed that well.
But then. But again, what is it? Like, what's backing it?
It's a blockchain. It's a technology. It's a new kind of technology to send money across the internet to another party.
But we have like Venmo, and we have online banking.
Well, let's take my wife for example. She's from Thailand. Whenever she sends money back home to Thailand, can take over a week sometimes just to get those funds transferred all the way to across the world. With Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, but you're looking at a few minutes to get to the other party. You can make payments on a lot of different merchant websites now with Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Have you done it yet? Have you bought?
I have. Well, no, because Bitcoin? I want to hold mine. It's going up so high in value. I don't want to give it away yet.
Did you buy a ton?
I bought a decent amount of a few of them, so I'm kind of diversified in it right now because you don't want to just own one. You want to own, as many as you can. The thing that they say is only invest as much as you're willing to lose. You kind of hear that all over the place if you're someone who's interested in this. But so I've made a lot. So Ethereum, that was at $17 per coin in February, and now it shot up to $300. So that's an even bigger increase than Bitcoin.
That's
per coin, yeah. And I invested in that back when it was at around the $17 level. And my wife did too, so that's pretty good.
I need to learn more about it because, you said it the other day when we met up, and then all of a sudden I have my client talking about it, and I'm like, "What is this thing?"
You're going to hear more people talk about it.
I don't know, man. I we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
We're good. We're rolling. Okay, cool. We're live, man. Appreciate you coming down.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us from your childhood, where are you from? And kind of up through your younger years.
I guess you can describe me as a farm boy. I mean, I'm from a really, really small town in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Most people are never going to hear of this town. It's called Pleasanton, Nebraska. You can Google it. It's a town of about 300 people. So very, very small town. So I grew up with those small town roots, I guess, whatever that means. But I grew up there, moved out to Colorado when I was 19 years old. So going on 11 years now. And went to college at CSU after I moved out here. Yep. And the rest is history. You moved out here
for college?
I did. Fort Collins. Yeah.
Fun place. Foco's changing.
Go Rams.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy up there now. Traffic trying to get around in Fort Collins is awful. It's almost worse than trying to drive around in downtown Denver. I don't know the last time you've been up there though, but
about 6 months ago. Yeah, I was there this year. Yeah. It's far. It's a nice community. It's kind of its own little place up there. They got their own thing. It's a college town, so a lot of people go up there to party. Yeah. It's got that reputation as a party town, but it's a nice place. I like Colorado. That's why I moved out here. Colorado's got a lot of opportunity. Whatever you want. You want Boulder. You want the arts. Go to Boulder. You want to party. You want to go to Fort Collins. Technology companies galore all over Denver, all over Broomfield. I mean this state's pretty much has it all now at this point.
Right. Yeah.
It's really growing.
Did you see yourself moving anywhere?
Potentially. We'll see what happens. Right now, I think
Thailand?
We'll see. My wife's from Thailand. The prices there are really great, but we'll have to see what the jobs hold. But right now, I'm doing really well with my company, which I guess is the reason why we're here.
I bet CenturyLink. No, not at all. But I bet CenturyLink is in Thailand.
They are. Well, they're definitely a lot of Singapore, a lot of Asian countries, Australia, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
China,
what was it that brought you to Fort Collins, to Colorado though? School. Yeah. But what interested you in
nutrition?
CSU?
So my degree is in nutrition. A lot of people that know me now never would guess that because they see how I eat. But I like to eat good food. But
we went in on some bacon the other day.
Yeah, some bacon. Yeah, we chowed that down. Just as long as it's responsibly sourced, I think I'm okay with it. So I think that's all right. But yeah, I'm really big into. I was specifically really big into the whole nutrition industry. I got into that when I was 19 years old. Did my bout in veganism, tried veganism out. It really helped clear up my skin. It was really, really good for my health. But after a while, I started to experience a little bit less energy. And so I figured out other ways to, to maximize, health and nutrition. And so
what got you into the nutrition side of things? Was there like a person that
my PE teacher? My PE teacher just said this kind of mind-boggling thing that I've never heard of. He said, if you want to get better at sports, try not drinking milk. He actually said that. That was the thing that sort of.
And this was profound for a PE teacher.
Profound.
Back 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, this would have been 2004.
Yeah.
So that's still things were still relatively conventional back then. That was the year Facebook started, now that we think about it. But yeah, so, when you say something like that, especially to a young, impressionable teen, it's kind of like, it makes you think. And then you start to get on the internet and research. And then that's what I started to do. I started to get into that and research a lot of other stuff. But when a lot of teenagers have problems with their skin, acne and stuff, so they want to figure out ways that they can, be healthier. So, yeah, that's what interested me a lot about it. And it just grew from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so CSU, you went to CSU, you got your degree there, 4 years in nutrition. What are you doing now?
Well, it's a very good question. So it was more than 4 years, first of all. I think I was on the 5 or 6 year plan, which a lot of people can relate.
I did the same thing, and for a marketing degree. Like, that's a 2-year degree right there,
So it kind of
nutrition
was funny.
Can get complex. My sister did that at CSU, and she did some hardcore biology stuff.
Same here.
Yeah.
We can all relate with that. Those science courses are not easy.
No.
But I would say what led to after that, after I graduated in 2013, I was actually going to plan to go into chiropractor school, because chiropractors, you hear about what they do. They help a lot of people. A lot of them are kind of recognized as doctors, right? They make pretty good money. But the only issue I had with it, and it started to become a bigger issue the more I thought about it, was student loans. That is just a huge problem these days. It's only getting worse, as we all know. Those loans that you have to take out to go to chiropractor school, it's like over $100,000 essentially. And I already had student loans from CSU, and it's like, do I want to really go to school for another 4 years and add hundreds of thousands of dollars to my debt?
Right.
I was thinking, ooh, this is going to be tough, so I need to figure something else out. And so that summer, I was just downtown with my mom, actually, that year I graduated, downtown in Denver. I just got to thinking, maybe if I got my foot in the door with a really big company, it can lead to something great. It can lead to me having a really good career, and who knows where it could lead, but I think it's probably a good way to go. Maybe I don't need to go to school again. Maybe I can just get into the workforce, figure out a way to get my foot in the door. So that's what I did. Wrote down the names of some of the companies on the skyscrapers in downtown Denver and started applying at various companies. At the time, CenturyLink was the largest, tallest building in downtown Denver at the time. And they were one of the companies I applied for. And they called me in for an interview shortly after, and the rest is history. I was able to successfully get a job there. Actually, in an administrative role. It was more of like a support role. It was not a sales role. And but it was in the sales department, but it was not a sales role. You supported the sellers, and so that's a very different distinction. And that was like my first bite of corporate America. It was my introduction to corporate America, and it was like amazing because you get benefits and salary. You get really good hours. You get consistent hours. It's not like a part-time job when you're working in college. You're thinking what it can lead to some places. It can open up more doors, and that was my mindset the whole time. My mindset was moving up, and my manager specifically said at the time, this is a good stepping stone to another role within the company. And so it was about 6 months after that position. I excelled in that position, did really well, and about 6 months later after that, it led to me moving into an actual sales executive role. So that was the start of my professional sales career, because I've been in sales, but not in like a professional capacity like at CenturyLink. So that was a big leap. It was a very risky leap. This is the big thing, actually. Almost everyone was telling me not to do that, because in sales you carry a quota, as a lot of people probably know and are aware. when you have a quota, if you don't get your quota, you're going to get cut. You're going to get cut out of the job. You're going to essentially be terminated or something like that. And so that was think about me. I go from wanting to do chiropractor school, I have a nutrition degree. I'm like making all these big changes, and then it's like another big change and taking a big risk to go into sales, right? But what motivated me was the people that were successful. I didn't doubt myself that I could be like those people that were doing really well. I wanted to focus on the people that were succeeding. I didn't want to focus on the people that weren't succeeding, that weren't making it.
And also, how did you land into the B2B side? For you guys listening, B2B, business to business. CenturyLink has two different divisions. There's the consumer front. I'm actually a CenturyLink customer.
Very good.
In my apartment. Yeah, very good.
Say you love it.
CenturyLink, you're great. This podcast is not sponsored by CenturyLink. Just full disclosure. Anyways, there's the consumer side of things, and then there's the B2B side, which you're in. You're selling to businesses, not like one-to-one people. Like you're selling these massive $1 million deals.
Yeah,
how did you land on that side?
Yeah, thanks, and that's an important thing to distinguish. You're right about that. The business-to-business side is a whole nother animal. There's no comparison to residential or consumer side. What you essentially become is what's called a consultative salesperson. You have to get trained and learn how to, sell products, and CenturyLink has like 400 different products in their business portfolio, which is, to my knowledge, one of the largest in the industry. And so it takes a lot of training. So there was obviously an onboarding time frame for that. But what drew me to that is, to be honest, that's where a lot of the potential to make a lot of money was in. It was in that business to business side. It wasn't so much in the residential side. It was more challenging.
The upside is what had driven you from
the ceiling. Yeah, definitely. And again, I started off in an administrative role to support, and those were the people I was supporting, was the business to business people. So I sort of had an idea of what they did, and I had a taste of it, but it was still such a risky move to make because I didn't have any particular advantage, I would say, that was going to make me succeed over anyone else. I was still brand new to the industry, only 6 months into the industry, and it was a big risk, but it paid off big time.
In what way?
Well, it's been a very rewarding career so far. It's been about 3.5 years now I've been into it. I've been one of the top-ranked sales reps nationwide. Each year I've been in sales. Starting the first year in 2014. I started in June of 2014. And we were talking about this earlier. Those first few months are very critical. Yeah. And so on my third month, I had a very, very big sale. I know at the time it was one of the larger sales for someone that early on in their career at CenturyLink. And what led to that was just my ability to do sort of research on building tenants. That's, for a lot of people that are wondering how you get your leads. Down here in Denver, we have obviously a lot of big buildings, a lot of tenants in these buildings, businesses in these buildings, and I did research.
They're going up like crazy.
They're going up like crazy, and so the Chase Bank building, if anyone knows Denver really well, I had a client in there. It was a law firm, and they're largest family law firm in Colorado, and they were probably my first really, really big customer. And it was completely a cold call. It was not handed to me. It was not a referral. It wasn't any other type of thing.
Isn't cold calling fun?
Cold calling's, yeah. It depends what your definition of fun is. But well, you definitely need to do it. If you're new to sales, if you're new to the industry, you have to pound the streets. Yeah. I really believe in that. People are always wanting the secret recipe, and people even ask me to this day, "What are you doing that's like so successful? That's so getting you all these sales?" Yeah. Well, it's really momentum is really what it is. The answer is momentum. I'm not starting and stopping and starting and stopping. It's more like it's been a continuous role since I started.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the weird thing about sales is like you slow down a little bit, your pipeline starts to slow down. Your sales sins from 90 days ago are gonna really bite you. 90 days down the road.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I'm going to Thailand for and this is. But
you got some good. You've already reached your. Well, we're in August. You've hit your quota this year already, right?
No, you're right about that. Yeah. So it makes it a little bit nicer.
Has this been your biggest year in the company?
This year is going really well. About 350% year to date. Over my quota. Which I would say is probably so let's just put it this way. Each year I've actually progressively done better every single year I've been at the company. So first year was really good, but it was only like a half a year, so it doesn't really count. I think a lot of people know that you can't really count half years. But progressively, you want to look for improvements year over year, and I've been able to do that. But I would say this year definitely is on pace to be my best year for sure.
What do you think you'll end with this year in new sales for CenturyLink?
Well, millions of revenue. There's no question.
Like 2 million or tens of millions?
Yeah, I've had over $1 million in revenue just for July alone, for example. So it's going to be in the millions. I mean, but it's kind of based off of your role at the company. There's a lot of different sales positions. You have globals, you have government sales, and commercial. I'm a commercial sales rep, so I kind of focus more on mid-sized businesses. And so it's very important to distinguish that because you have a quota that's set for your role, that they realize it might be harder for you to get like way higher sale than someone in another role. I don't have an existing base. And this is definitely important to point out as well. So I'm actually focused on bringing in new business, not as a farmer. It's more of like a hunter role. So I do outside sales. I have to bring in new customers to our company. And some people would probably agree that's very hard. That's one of the hardest jobs you can do in sales is being a hunter because you have to
the most
hustle.
Important in any business function.
I mean, I work on some existing clients, but it's more trying to find new customers, and that's a big challenge.
And how do you do that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's so many
Bitcoin?
ways you can do it.
You're buying them with Bitcoin?
Bribing all day now. Well, I'll tell you what. It all comes down to relationships. You're building relationships with clientele. You're building relationships with referral partners. That might be the biggest one right there.
Is your referral partners?
Is building relationships with referral partners.
And how do you approach a referral partner, provide value for them, and entice them enough to bring business your way?
Well, you have to find sort of like a mutual something that's mutually beneficial. I'll give you an example. I have a guy who is he does like he's a vendor. He's like an IT guy for customers. We're not an IT help desk type company, right? So there's a need for me sometimes to find someone like that for my customers. So I have a guy that does that. I will send him.
He's local here?
He's local here. We've gone out to dinner a few times. He might watch this someday, this podcast, know who I'm talking about. But I'll refer clients to him. Some of my clients that I've sold business to need an IT person in-house because they don't have. So a lot of businesses, believe it or not, don't want to pay the money to have an actual full-time IT person on staff. So they'd rather hire like a third party, and that's what he does. And so he's an example of a referral partner. I'll send him business for clients that I've sold and vice versa. He's done that for me. He'll have his own clients that had nothing to do with me, but he'll refer them to me because they know CenturyLink service is really, really top notch. So that's just one example. You have internal referrals that you can get through other employees at your company because they might be out there talking to clients that they might be on installs or something like that.
Right.
Every telecom company has this. Every telecom company has to install products, right? And so those people are talking to customers. I mean, what's more beautiful than that? So you have them talking to customers. They're at the customer's doorstep, right? And a lot of times these customers will go up to them and ask them, "Hey, we actually need to get service at this place. Can you actually give me someone to call?"
Right.
And so that'll be me to call them. Because that internal person will, in many cases, refer me to them. So that's a huge one. So you have internal referrals, you have external referrals.
Right.
And those are just, you got to keep those up because I've had some of those relationships sort of fizzle out over the last 3.5 years, but some have grown and some have become new as recently as this month. I'm creating new ones all the time. So you can't just sit there and expect those to last forever. You still have to continually build new relationships to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. It's all relationship, especially in B2B because, man, you could connect with someone today and then you're working on a deal 6 months, 12 months down the road, right?
Let's take a step
how about
back.
This?
Yeah,
how about 2.5 years later? So I
had I
had
remember
a customer
you
2.5 years later. 2.5 years later is about to sign a contract after I first spoke with the customer.
That's commitment.
And that's insane. But it happens. I mean, some people just don't have contracts that are not, ready to. They might have just signed a contract that's going to last 3 years or something.
And that was a massive deal for you, too, and it closed pretty quick after you guys re-engaged, right?
Well, that's why you want to hold on to those.
Right. Yeah.
You just never know what's going to happen. You don't want to burn bridges. If you do a really good job with one customer for their service, they'll actually customers themselves can become referral partners. That's amazing too.
Yeah,
it's happened a lot actually.
Well, and CenturyLink's great at for you guys incentivizing those guys to make referrals and
we do that. We have referral programs. If you're interested, contact me.
There you go.
We'll get you paid 100% of their first month's bill.
Plug it in. Cool, man. Well, so I want to take a step back because what I'm actually super interested in is. Number one, you went to school for nutrition.
Right.
You're working something that's outside of your degree. That's just
totally outside.
Mind-boggling. Who does that? Who goes to school and then doesn't work in their career? And you've been super successful. Like your President's Club with CenturyLink, right, and all that. Those are only the top sales guys.
Correct. Yes.
How did you go from a nutrition guy like biology to like just being this kick-ass salesperson?
Oh, sometimes you hear this all the time, right? Some people are born with something, born with the desire or just a natural skill and whatnot. But I've always done sales roles. Even when I was in college, I did like demo presentations for products at health food stores. Always tried to sell products. I worked in
where were you doing that at?
Retail. Well, I worked at Whole Foods. I worked at natural grocers.
Yeah.
I did a lot of demos for different various companies, actual brands that they sell in the stores, where you go in and set up a table and then try to sell your products. So I did that my entire college career, and so I've always sort of been exposed to sales, whether it's at a retail level or a direct level.
Yep.
And so it wasn't totally foreign to me, the idea of doing sales, but like this type of sales, B2B, is a whole nother level because that was more retail consumer, right? So it just clicked. It made sense to me. Like when people explained it to me more, what the role would be like and what you could do. So I guess it wasn't. So I guess for people watching out there, it's important to know what you're good at, what you're comfortable with, because there's definitely no question that this is not for everybody. You have to be a people person. You can't be a hermit. You can't expect something to be given to you.
You gotta accept it.
I work on weekends. I work nights. I mean, I would consider myself a very hard worker, one of the hardest in the office. And so because of that, I think that's those are the type of people that reap the rewards the most.
Yeah. Who are some of the people that help to educate you about this B2B selling process, whether it was like internal or completely external? Like, me personally, I have mentors all over the world that I consume content from. What was that like for you?
That's a very good question. I'd never even heard of this job, to be honest. I had no idea there was, I'm talking about just as recently as like a few months or a month before I started this job, started at CenturyLink. I had no idea there was jobs like this where there's B2B, where you could work and make a decent amount of money, like 6 figures, right? That we're talking about 6-figure jobs that don't require a college degree or don't require like a doctorate degree or a lawyer degree of some kind. And so
sales
is
one of the only ones, unless you're an IT guy. Now.
Some people think sales is like, you have to go door to door salesman, and it's some people have
cheesy. People have this weird thing about sales. We talked about that the other day too. Exactly. Is like there's this negative thing around sales, and I love sales. Like it's an art form to me, and to you clearly. Like you're an expert in this space,
right?
So
let's put it this way. Everyone sort of is. Obviously people aren't out there buying mattresses every single day, so you have to find the right timing. It's all about timing in sales. You have to get to the person at the right time. They might not buy right there that same day, but they might buy a year from now, 2.5 years from now. But sales. If you're able to figure out a way to get to the people at the right time, that's when you're going to be really successful. And sales it doesn't have to be sleazy. It doesn't have to be, creepy, sleazy. It doesn't have to be slimy. You don't have to be overly aggressive. You don't have to be overly pushy. It's almost like there's so many different ways to be successful at it. I mean, there's a lot of people at our company that are doing just as well, if not better than I am, that might have a completely different personality than me and a totally different style than me. So it's not like anything you guys have ever seen, because B2B sales in the professional world, telecom world, and maybe software sales is not like anything you probably have ever seen, because I don't think they talk about it in college. They don't talk about it on TV. There's like no examples of it anywhere that you're going to see. So it's almost like you have to live it. You have to see it up close. You have to try it yourself. And then that's the way you only truly know what it's like. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
So.
But again, so who were those people? Where were you at? How were you educating yourself about sales? Because you even mentioned that first 3 to 6 month period into this thing is super crucial.
We have some people in my office here in Denver that are very successful, that have been there for a very long time. I pick their brains. You need to find someone who's like a mentor. You need to find a mentor. And people are probably wondering, did I read books? I actually didn't read very many, but I don't think I really read any books about sales. But I just talked to the people that are successful at CenturyLink, kind of pick their brains, see what they're good at. They're not always going to tell you everything that makes them successful, and that's okay. But if you sort of just observe, watch, and listen, talk to them, a lot of them actually are more than willing to share, like I am, what's working for them and what's succeeding. So, talking to people in my own office that were sort of like a mentor, that I would pick their brain, that's kind of what really helped me realize that I can do it too. What they're doing, I can do it. I mean, there's nothing that magical, I guess, about what they're doing, so I can learn. And it's very important to find a mentor. It's very important to find somebody that is doing really well in the role that you're doing, and you have to really make sure that you're latching on to someone else's success. Otherwise you're going to have to figure out, reinvent the wheel, I guess, right? And that might take a little bit more time. Maybe, you can do it, but I'm not saying I do the same exact thing that my mentors did. I probably do things a lot differently. But I think a lot of successful people have that in common, right? They find a mentor, they find someone that knows a lot about their craft, and they pick their brain. I think we see that across all industries.
Absolutely.
So,
What were, from a technical standpoint, what were some of the sales and selling? What were those mentors handing down to you that helped you achieve?
Techniques.
Like what? Tell us. Like
things to say. Well, techniques. Whether it's expanding your network, not trying to pound your head into the wall with like cold calling all day. Excuse me. You don't want to just. You have to try different things. Opening your mind to new techniques, new ways to find leads, to what to say on the phone when you're talking to a lead, what to say to get to close, which, to be honest, that's all that really matters, is the close. Because once you get a lead, if you're not closing them, then it's all for naught. But really, really sharing information on how to do all those things. It's a process. Business-to-business sales, a lot of people will agree with this. It's a grind. Even if you get a sale, there's no guarantee you're going to get paid. There's no guarantee that you're going to get the product installed, that they're going to actually be billing. And so how to deal with like the adversity, how to deal with the obstacles, there's something that they would share with me. There's a heck of a lot of obstacles. This is something that a lot of people don't realize. I didn't realize it. I thought, it'll just be easy. They'll sign the contract and it'll be done, right? No, not even close. So you have so much you have to deal with after the contract's done, like process things. Order management can be very, very complicated. Everyone that's in telecom knows what that means. It's very complicated. It can actually affect your compensation unfairly.
Wow.
And you have to have tenacity. The quote that I've heard from one of my mentors in the office was, he would always say, vision without execution is hallucination. And I think that's a really good quote, because you always have to be taking action pretty much, but you have to know what you want. You always have to know what you want, but you always have to also be taking action. You can't just sit there all day and expect it to come to you, because you're gonna you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So what is your process? Like, how has it been so successful from A to Z?
So, like, from when I start with the lead?
From lead to closing, signing a contract,
right.
and convincing that person to sign off on that thing.
Yeah, that's the
What's
hard
that
part,
like?
right?
What is that?
Yeah, well...
What are those steps for you?
I'll give you an example. So, I would say 90% of my customers, I never actually see their face in person. I never meet them in person. So it's either going to be completely over the phone.
Yeah. Which, by the way, did you go to Mizu Azakawa yet? After you?
Not yet. That's one of my customers. That I never met.
And you never met him, and they were
never met him,
dude. You
I didn't even talk with him on the phone. It was all through email.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty legit.
But I'll give you an example. So that's a huge example right there. So if you're someone who thinks you have to meet with people in person, I mean, this isn't the 1950s. I mean, we're not doing business that way anymore.
Right.
Right. So, and again, everyone watching probably knows it really sort of depends on your role once again. But in general, I would say in telecom, in many cases, you don't actually have to meet in person. But when you find a lead or you come across a lead, you have multiple ways of contacting them. You can either call them, you can email them, you can go knock on their door, act physically, and try to meet them in person, or you can do all three. And when I was starting out those first few months, I did as much of those as I could. If I didn't get success on the call or the email, I would try all of them, right? And so that's incredibly important. But once you find a lead and you're able to get traction with them, usually you're able to get traction with them because the customer is saying they need something. They need a service. They need your service, or they need someone's service. And so it's your job to present your to hear what their needs are first. And then based off of what they tell you what their needs are, you need to provide the solution to their needs. And for me, one of the things I think that this is where deals are won and lost in many cases is the confidence in what you speak, the confidence in your words, the tone of your words, your vocabulary. I mean, it's like a combination of everything. It's really amazing. You can have two exactly same people talking on the phone, but one person will say something just a little bit differently, and the customer will be like, "Oh no, never mind. We don't want your stuff." But if you keep the customer focused, engaged, and you're really transparent, and the thing I like to say is I like to preempt customers' questions, and that way it makes the sales cycle shorter.
And what do you mean by that? So,
for example, this is a complicated industry, telecom is. So they're going to have a ton of questions, most likely, about contracts, about pricing, about configurations, technical questions, and stuff like that. So you want to get ahead of all of that as much as possible. Try to explain the process, what it's going to look like when it's actually installed in their business on your first call, if possible. If you can, once again, this is after you've identified a need. You don't want to get into a long, drawn-out, weeks-long, months-long conversation about why they need your service. You should have already done that on the first call about why they need it. And so if the timing's right, we talked about timing, you need to get it done. And the way you get it done is you make sure that you've answered all their questions, including ones that might come up based off of your experience working on previous clients. You kind of know, you'd be surprised how many questions are asked the exact same by a lot of different businesses, right? And so you do that, you preempt it, and then there really should not be any more room for debate. And so then you ask if they agree to the deal, then you send them the contract if they agree. You're looking for a verbal commit.
Is that how you literally would close the deal?
Literally, I would close the deal like that. You would look for a verbal commit, and then you send them the contract.
Which is what?
The same day. Verbal commit will be like, they'll say something like, they'll say keywords like, that sounds good. Or they'll say something like, I can see us using this.
And how do you ask to get that?
Well, okay, so another thing is you have to set the stage by talking about, you need to know when, how soon are you looking to get this? You need to know what their timeline is. I always try to find out timelines also as quickly as possible. It can, not all this can be done on the first call, by the way. Sometimes it's just not possible.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of deals signed the same day I contacted that customer. And so I know for a fact you can do it the same call on the phone within the same half an hour. I've done stuff like over the same call. I know how to generate my own contracts at our company, so I can actually go in and generate it and have it sent to them to be signed over email relatively quickly. But I mean, everyone has different techniques, but I would just say I think I have probably one of the fastest close rates at our company because I'm able to preempt questions once again, because if you're not, then they're going to come back and keep asking more. It's going to be like drip, drip, drip. Ask question here, ask question there. It could be like a month later and they're still asking questions.
So how do you do that? Like, slow down here. If you're preempting questions, are you like you just know from talking to other people typically what the questions are?
So what experience does.
So in your consultation with that person, you're just feeding that information to them. Are you doing it in writing or just like
we do both. Sometimes some people, I don't know, we have some customers that aren't as big into email, believe it or not. So they'll like to just take notes, or they would like to just hear you say it over the phone. But I'm really big into email, so almost always I'll send an email reminder or recap about what we spoke about. And then customers, I would say, and just people's human nature is to not take action unless they're nudged, right? And so I will have the contracts ready almost always. Sometimes before they give me a verbal yes, but if I get even just a small opening, like where I think it's going to move forward, I'll get that contract generated because, they're more likely to sign it if they have it in front of them. You will not believe how many people I've seen at our office that, they'll talk and talk and talk for weeks and weeks and weeks, never generated a contract. Well, it's like, your competitors are probably doing that. So you better have something in writing that the customer can review, because this has happened many times where a customer they'll say verbal yes, and then they still won't sign for many more months. And it's like, wait, how is that possible? That's not how business works, right?
Right.
It is how business works. I found out, unfortunately. And so it's like they might want to legally review it. They might have a legal department that needs to review it. They might have a lawyer to review it. And this has happened a lot. So it's better just to have it. If you agreed on a proposal, on a price, send them that contract so they can review it. So they're not coming back to you later to ask for it, and you're not waiting on them to just give you the go ahead. You sort of have to take control. You have to take the lead in your negotiations with the customer.
Yeah. And then, so again, what is that ask for you? Is it can we do this deal, or can we move forward, or what? How do you transition from that presentation, you're getting those preempted questions out of the way to sign off on that thing?
Well, you ask verifying questions about, okay, so we talked about this, does the pricing look good? Is this something that you would agree to? And if you get to indications that yes, the pricing's okay, and the terms look good, then sounds good. So I'll be sending you a contract over DocuSign. Please sign it as soon as possible. I don't say just sign it whenever. No, I say sign it ASAP. Because it's like, again, your job is to create urgency, and your job is to create and to take the lead. Telecom is complicated. Products don't get installed that fast. In telecom, products can take literally up to 6 months to install. Think about that. Up to 6 months. And so even if they say yes, it's not like they're going to get their stuff tomorrow. So that's why it's even more important in our industry, in telecom, to create a sense of urgency. Plus, you have a quota. You can't be sitting there all day. Your job is to sell. You can't wait 6 months necessarily. If you have no other backup sales, you gotta get it done. So it's very important.
Nice. Yeah. What's the next thing for you?
It's going to keep going. Next big thing? I'll tell you what. Things are going really well right now.
Yeah.
I think I like the trajectory I'm on right now, career-wise. Like we talked about, I think every year I've progressively done better. This year I'm on track for my best year ever. And another President's Club is around the corner. We'll see what happens, but you don't want to be too presumptuous with that. But there's no reason for me to make any changes right now. I don't see any reason to. So As long as the money's coming in and the resume builders are there, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And invest in Bitcoin.
And invest in, I don't know, man.
Put some more money into it.
I'll let you experiment on that front for me for a little bit.
I'll show you my portfolio.
Yeah, show me the Bitcoin portfolio. Maybe I'll dive in at some point, but
yeah.
Well, so now a lot of young millennials are going to be listening into this as well.
I hope so.
In addition to, and me too. Like I really hope that this podcast can help out a lot of the next generations of salespeople, because we've even talked about this in CenturyLink, in the B2B side.
Right.
They're all, what's the generational kind of structure look like there now?
So that's a very interesting question. We've talked about this before. If you look at the demographics of sort of these B2B reps, at least at CenturyLink. And CenturyLink, by the way, I think is a very good example because it's one of the biggest companies in Denver. Yeah. One of the largest employers in Denver. It's the biggest telecom company in all of Colorado. And so it's a very good example to use in terms of what the demographics look like of the workforce there. And so for my position, the business-to-business sales, you're going to see lots of people over the age of 40. A lot of people sort of in their family time, not necessarily my generation. You're going to see a lot of older generations in there. And
you're a millennial technically.
Oh yeah, definitely a millennial.
But there's no millennial.
There's one. There's a couple, but when I started out, there was none. I was the only one.
And you're in a similar position.
And only 3.5 years ago, I was the only one that I know of. Especially in Denver, I was definitely the only one. There's been a couple here and there over the years, but if you look at the vast majority, it's surprising. I'm very surprised that you don't see a lot more, considering how many students are in debt, how much they like money, how much they want to make money. And a lot of them are similar to me. They get a degree that they're not doing anything with, that they're not getting a job in the degree that they got. So it's amazing that I don't see too much, and who knows what the reasons are for that. But I guess I have my theories.
Which is?
Well, I would say, in college, you're kind of just sticking to a curriculum. Most I think millennials or the generation after them, which is Generation Z also, just go straight from high school to college without any job experience. And so by the time they graduate out of high school, out of college, they don't have a lot of job experience in many cases. And so they might not feel confident enough that they can go into a corporate job of some kind, or they do go into corporate job, but they think sales is again, that bad image that we talked about is not where they want to go. But I would just say,
not realizing
the money potential.
Everything you do is sales.
Yeah,
whether you're going for a technology job or
interviews at any company,
you're always selling yourself. You're selling yourself to your loved ones. So it's
dating,
interesting.
We have selling yourself
dating. On a date. You're selling yourself. That's the
ultimate sales job, right?
Yeah. Hey, you closed pretty quick.
Right.
Man,
I would think most millennials would agree with that. Dating is the ultimate sales job. Well, it's not job, but sales. A gig.
Because we have access to everybody.
Exactly. So you have to stand out.
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone, using an app of some kind. They say you have so many fish in the sea. Well, how do those fish get together? You got to stand out somehow. Right? So it's really not so different from that. You're going to deal with rejection. Remember, I don't know if we talked enough about the negatives. Yep. But you're going to deal with rejection if going into almost any role, but especially sales. But it's a high risk, high reward job, and the risks, the benefits way outweigh the risks, in my opinion, the negatives. So don't be afraid to do it. If you're a millennial, if you want to make a lot of money, this is a way you can do it without becoming a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, and it can happen really quickly also. But you just have to be willing to take a risk, and don't be afraid of rejection. That's very important as well.
Would you open yourself up to, if anyone heard this, they really glommed onto what it is you're saying, are you open to, mentoring or assisting or providing information for young millennials that would like to learn more about sales?
I would love to see more people from my generation get in this stuff. again, we talked about why they're not doing it. I think it goes back to, again, in the colleges, you stick to your curriculum. You don't talk so much about what life is going to be like in the real world. So, if I can show them what it's like in the real world and tell them more realistically what it's like in the corporate world or the real world, whatever world, if they can get a slice of what someone like me who's just went to college, got a degree like a lot of people, didn't do what I went to my degree for, then that'd be great. I'd love to, help whoever is willing to listen to that message. Yeah,
willing to listen and actually take action on it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you?
LinkedIn is the most important. So another example. If you're listening to this, you're probably really interested in jobs and careers and advancing yourself in some way or shape or form. If you're not on LinkedIn, that's kind of insane in 2017. You want to get on LinkedIn and you want to connect with people that you feel are going to be, really good connections, even just a little bit. You should add that person on LinkedIn. So getting in touch with me through LinkedIn is a good start because, I think I have my contact info, my email, and my number on there.
Cool. And I'll put a link. I'll link to your LinkedIn profile when I post the episode and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think I've had people contact me. You have a lot of recruiters that try contacting me, but people that are just want questions, career advice, someone who might be just like them, didn't know what they wanted to do after they graduated college, or in a lot of student loan debt, reach out to me. Let me know, and I can let you know sort of the steps you can take to sort of duplicate the path that I'm on, and I can be a little bit more specific on like the money, how much, and how much I'm making, how much you can expect to make, and stuff like that too.
Jay, that was awesome. Appreciate you coming on, brother. I really appreciate you. Yep. Guys, that's it. Thanks for tuning in to Mile High Mentors, and we will see you next time.